So just some pre-checks. Also going through our compensator setup and visually inspecting. Also, just little things that I check is just how free your clutch assembly is going to be. So your basket, your inner hub and stuff like that, make sure there's no up and down movement. We're going to make sure that that nut's, torque to a setting. But just go through pre-checks. If there is movement, because as you know, as I'll explain, the main shaft on how much it protrudes out from the actual inner primary itself, it's leveraged, and there's a bearing in there that obviously, for the inner primary and the gearbox, that this is taking a lot of pressure. So when that chain's tight, this is pulling inbound, which is going to be load placed on something. You've got to be commonly aware about that. Same with this. That chain was so tight, it actually is the tightest chain I've ever witnessed on a bike before. But the pull that is coming back, yet again, we've got a exposed leverage point off a bearing itself that is going to be forced inbound. That's going to be forced inbound. So we're going to see load parameters on things that we don't necessarily want to have that exhausted amount of load pressure to. There's just little things. This clutch has been set up with partial different pound springs as well. So they've probably found a happy medium on what works for this bike. Okay, no drama. But yeah, just stuff that I've got to go through. So I'll be pulling the clutch assembly off now and then disconnecting the battery, and I'll get in, pull the starter through, or just unbolt, I should say, and then that primary will come off. And then I'm going to start looking into the gearbox. Now, I will be doing crank run out checks, just things to make sure, hey, it could be okay. But the thing is as well, if it's not, I need to notify and document that that's going on. So these are the things that need to happen when you're working with bikes, even a general bike. It's not, if you can have the moment in the time of what it is, take these measurements, check these things, write it down. You've got, like I said, a preference or a reference point for knowing later, if there happens to be a motor build or something's got to be refreshed. Well, where are we at now? What were we working with? Has it shifted at all? Is there any complications in it? So yet again, just another part of the parcel of what goes on with this stuff. Right, so now we're at this point. So we are exposed. So you can see, obviously there's a hub bearing in here, which is, we've got to check that for notchiness, movement, any sort of excessive wear to the point. But the main shaft, the bearing for the inner primary here, right, it's a load point. We're trying to carry a volume of load through a point of availability of what that length is for that shaft. So once this comes off, as you'll understand, there is obviously a bearing that comes from the main shaft in the gearbox that's recessed, and then we follow through for obviously a chain drive, which we're going to check, and then we'll come through to this inner primary area. But we've just got to check this stuff because this gearbox has got a definite issue in third. Like, I can't get any movement out of that, but when it's free, we'll be checking and seeing what's going on, and no doubt just update these bearings. But just peace of mind, just check this stuff. Can't say it enough, because it cops a beating. When you've got these big motors, right, you think what's traveling out of here through your drivetrain area, and the force that's going into this to go into work, there's a lot that goes on. Front sprocket's still looking all right. I'd be happy to reuse, but yeah, obviously as we stated, that rear is just a goner. We'll keep cruising on with it. There's a lot of metal in here. It's going to be, yeah, we'll get it apart anyway. It's part of the process. All right, I'm just going to go through now with these 6 speeds. What we can see is on the, is it going to work? On the dog gear, on the edge, we're seeing it now starting to sort of, where are we? You can see it's a bit darker there where it's worn. So this is where it creates an issue where that edge comes off and how it recesses, which I'll split this apart and to show everybody, but where the dog gear engages, it just starts to slip out, and that's why when you accelerate on the load, it starts to shudder. It's no good. So I'll get this apart just so I can do a different visual because it's a bit hard to focus in on this, but I'll see how I go. Rightio, there's a huge gap here. I've just chucked this cam plate back on quickly, but this run out's going to be fucking insane. We'll check it out. Alright, so 0. We're close enough. Just going to give this a whirl, see how it holds up. But this crank, from what I've seen of other evidence, is toast. Let's just see how it goes. Go the true way, which is going to be doesn't feel the best. Oh, are you fucking kidding me? Fuck. Alright, so I've just moved the dial indicator back about half an inch, just over on the pinion shaft. I'll rotate clockwise as normal, just to take a reference point here as well. But from what I can see, I think we've expired. I'll just check what this does. This is the worst crank I've ever seen. And this is only the pinion side, not the driveline side, so tomorrow I'll get the stator rotor off and the stator, and I'll take a measurement where I can, but I think we are done and dusted. I'll just go a little bit quicker. Hopefully the bike's not moving too much. See how that goes. I think that's us for the day. We've done a fair few hours in this. Ooh. So you can understand why cranks need to come out, be trued, and then welded. They've got to be corrected. This is, I've only pulled around the corner and this is where it's at. I'd hate to see what the footage is, but this is a territory of where you just should not be sitting at all. But anyway, that's just a bit of the tech stuff that goes on with it all.